So thank you everyone for joining today, for leveraging our queerness for leadership. I'm going to be joining you with Pedro and Catherine. We're all from HP, and we'll get into longer introductions in a little bit here, but we're really excited to be presenting this. And I love that we're already getting in the chat, like, hello from Zurich. We got Zurich, Des Moines, we got all over. So this is awesome. So we're going to talk about being queer and how this is actually a gift. I don't know how many of you were able to attend the Queering Leadership live stream that was actually just before this. But yeah, that was amazing. I'm seeing lots of heads nodding. And I was watching that going, oh my God, this is like the perfect setup for what we're doing here. But when we talk about queer, if you look at the definition in Merriam-Webster, it's not the definition we would normally be using at a LGBTQIA++, et cetera, conference. It really talks about, queer is differing in some way from what is usual or normal. It's odd, it's weird. So even if you are a straight ally, you're probably a little queer by this definition. So we're going to be exploring these parts of ourselves that may be queer. Could be we're neurologically different, could be where we come from. There's lots of different dimensions of queerness and difference. And so we're going to be looking at that. And we're going to be exploring this idea that our different-ness, our weirdness is actually a priceless gift. And it's a priceless gift that the world needs from us. So something that I'm fascinated by is the idea of queer people as healers, as teachers, as people who can really bring transformative change. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So what we're going to do is Catherine and Pedro and I are going to talk for, we're going to try to not talk for more than 20 minutes because nothing can kill a show like too much exposition. The first show queen to say what that's from in chat wins nothing except the being first. So we're going to talk for a little bit. Yes, all right, Jeff wins the prize. And so we're going to talk a little bit to kind of set up the workshop. We're going to do some journaling, or you are going to do some journaling. We're going to have then a roundtable discussion in breakout rooms, because that's really the fun part with these virtual conferences, is getting people to talk to each other. So you're going to be randomly assigned to a group of people for about 20 minutes to talk about this stuff. And then we're going to come back into the larger group for sharing and some Q&A. So let's get to introductions. I'll start since I'm already talking. My name's Craig. I work at HP. My day job is in sales. I am a theater person. My bachelor's degree is in theater. So that's my that's my background and my passion. And I also teach mindfulness and emotional intelligence, and have really been interested in the last decade in conscious leadership and leadership in general, and also personal transformation. And so this workshop is really coming out of, there's a few things that this workshop is born out of. The first was when I attended the workshop for people who wanted to present workshops, and Isabel Porras, who's the learning person for Out and Equal, said, hey, you don't have to show up with a case study that's polished of something that you've nailed and it's a best practice you want to share. You can do a roundtable on something that you're just thinking about, and you want to enter into a dialogue with other people who are thinking about this. So that's what this is. If you came here looking for best practices or answers, you may be disappointed. What we're really trying to have today is a dialogue, with each other. And then the other inspiration for this was I've been in inquiry with a group of folks since COVID started. So one of my mentors was holding this question of getting back to normal. Oh, we got to get back to normal. I can't wait till we get back to normal. And he was asking the question, is normal all that great? Do I want to go back to normal? Because normal kind of sucked in some ways. And so we really started entering into this dialogue of what's normal? What does that mean? And maybe we don't want to go back to normal. And then what is the role of queer people in that? And so someone who has been one of my teachers and has become just a dear friend. And was the first person I called, and I said, I think I've got an idea for a workshop. Was like anyone does this anymore. When's the last time anyone called like this? I'm showing my age, but was Catherine. And so Catherine is something of my muse for this workshop, and just someone that I love so much, and I'm really happy to have her co-presenting with me. So Catherine, you're next.
Wow, thank you. Well, to return the favor, I would mention that I see you as my fairy godfather, in that you were the first person I talked to at our company's ERG when I joined it as an ally all these years ago. I was not out. I just wanted to associate with people who were sort of like me and maybe just would be nice on their own, and I wouldn't have to risk exposing myself to, be around them and gain some support. That changed over time as I got involved and granulated and started to show myself, but it was definitely my starting point. Now I came into business in supply chain planning and channel operations, which is it's a career, but I was a languages and linguistics major. And I discovered that actually the most important tool that I brought into my business classes, because I did a double major, was that I was used to the idea of translating between different functions, treating them as different cultures within a business context. And that even though they're speaking the same language, that actually makes it more dangerous. You ask a supply chain person, what's your forecast? Well, they're going to have a billion questions for you. Well, what do you mean by that? What degree of forecast? What about? And so I realized that the meaning and the words and the intentions were obscured behind a common language, and that people needed interpretation, honest understanding of what was going on from each angle, and standing in between them as an arbitrator and interpreter. Make sure that the cooperation really happens as planned. That's a great function for business, and it has nothing to do with numbers. And so that's how I'm kind of coasting in through a numbers profession with a very different focus. And that's my freedom, because I don't come up with the same answers as other people. And that is also fun. Now I've been gradually getting more involved in the ERG, and to the point now where I'm speaking and being a mentor. But all along the way, you meet new people, and you never know who's going to be a good friend, who's going to participate with you. However, going to the Out and Equal in person, for example, Pedro and I met at the Baltimore one, I think in 2019, Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. Not Baltimore, just DC. And it's a crazy experience, and we bond, and now we do things in the future. So I also throw myself into a new ask without really digging too deeply, because you don't know where it's going to lead. And sometimes that unexpected outcome is better than anything you could have previously imagined. So that's why, I'm willing to press the bright, shiny red button. You're going to be someplace new, and it could be better. So I bring a sense of optimism to the proceedings. And now I'll turn over to Pedro. who might have a network trouble.
No.
Oh no. Well, I guess we will vamp.
So
After all that.
well, I'll just briefly introduce Pedro, and then we'll continue and hope that they can get back in. Pedro is non-binary from Brazil and half my age. And I just thought their perspective was so important and presented at Out and Equal last year. And so just really, I think younger people are showing up, that they're not waiting till they hit midlife crisis to be themselves. I think is just kind of the shorthand way of I'm thinking about it. And there's just this, no, I'm not gonna play that game. And so to have the perspective of someone who's from Latin America and younger and non-binary is so valuable. So I really hope that Pedro can get back into the meeting. So
Hi. Yeah, sorry,
oh, there you are.
my Zoom crashed when Catherine called my name. So
Okay. I sort of quasi introduced you while you were away.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know if I heard everything, but yeah, I met Craig and Catherine in 2019, I think, at the Out and Equals Workplace Summit. And even if we work for HP, which is a large company, we probably don't meet a fraction of the people that we work with. But yeah, I think I'm the youngest here, and I was asked to be here, and I wasn't even going to attend this year's summit because I don't think the virtual conference, it's a way that I can take all the knowledge that it provides in a way that it's enough, I think. But when Craig sent me an email asking me to be here, I just jumped in because I think that I work in a way that I can take every opportunity that I can to make this work. And well, I work for HP for almost 4 years now. And I work as a data engineer. So I have an IT job inside the company. And my gay job is being chair for the Pride Brazil. So I'm Brazilian. And yeah, I'm looking forward to take this time with you folks and learn and share everything that I can. Thank you again, Craig and Catherine, for inviting me to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. So let's roll. Let's kind of talk about orientation. No, not that kind. So this is really for an opportunity for all of you to try on for the next 40 minutes or so a different, perhaps different way of being. So this is really an orientation for you as you go into the journaling exercises and as you interact with one another in the breakout rooms. Coming from a place of wonderment. Wonderment's a little different than curiosity. There's more humility in wonderment, really that space of truly not knowing, not trying to figure anything out. Kindness, having a sense of humor, bringing lightness. This can be fun. So bringing that, bringing friendliness and compassion. and also presence. So maybe, put phones on do not disturb. And really, when you're in those breakout rooms with these fellow human beings who are attending this conference, giving them your full attention. And you'll notice the little asterisks by kindness, friendliness, compassion. A lot of us are really good or try to be good at giving those things to others. And so the focus today is really inward. How do we bring these qualities to our relationship with ourselves? Some ground rules. First is confidentiality. So this meeting is recorded. Breakout rooms are not, and neither is your journaling, unless you hold your journals up to the camera. But really, what is said here stays here. And if you run into someone later at, a networking session, or just hit them up on LinkedIn, it's like, hey, Pedro, you shared this really deeply vulnerable thing, and I wanted to talk more about it. If Pedro says, I felt safe talking about it there, but I don't really want to go into it now. Just respect their wishes and just accept that, this is a space for people to maybe go deeper, is what we're trying to create. Bring your whole self, even the bits you don't like. Even the bits you don't like, or you may be uncomfortable with. And maybe those are the bits that you get to play with and maybe bring today. Explore the edges of authenticity. So authenticity can sometimes become, because it's a bit of a buzzword, and it can become performative. So really think about it from a place of, how are you today? How are you today? And however that is, bring that. And then appropriate vulnerability. So we want to be vulnerable, but we want to do it in a way that still feels safe for you. We're all at different places in our journeys. And just remembering that this is a co-created experience. So we're going to create this together. And this is one of my favorite quotes. This is the Japanese Zen priest who started San Francisco Zen Center. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the experts, there are few. So maybe let's just set aside our expertise and bring that beginner's mind to what we're doing today. So these are the things that we'll explore together. These are assumptions that may or may not be true, but we're going to ask you to make them for the purposes of this workshop. Our queerness is our superpower. Our queerness is our superpower. Genius can only fully express itself when our internal culture is one where everyone belongs and is fully welcome. And what do I mean by that? So we're here because, we all want to, especially the managers, we want to create cultures. My own bio on LinkedIn, I was reading it going, oh, wow. It says, oh, I want to create cultures where innovation thrives and everyone belongs. And how about in here? How about my inner culture? Is inside here a hostile workplace? Or is it a place where everyone thrives and all parts of me are welcomed and valued? I really loved what Chris Messiah said, and I wrote it down. So they're here. So hopefully they don't mind me quoting them. But what they said was, I had to get really comfortable with who I am really quickly if I was going to demand the respect from my peers, as well as the people that I love and who love me. And that's really exactly what we're talking about, is how do we get comfortable with ourselves and begin that corporate culture change inside ourselves, in our own executive leadership team that's up here. So the topics for inquiry are, how do we talk to ourselves? So I don't know if we have a lot of, personal development junkies in the room. Probably if you're in a workshop like this, you may well be one. And you may know who David White, the poet, and Sam Harris are. They're kind of luminaries in the field of personal transformation. And we're on a podcast talking about, if I talked to other people the way I talk to myself, I wouldn't have any friends. and these are, super mindful people. So we all do it. So how are we talking to ourselves? And Catherine, do you want to maybe talk about, inclusive interculture?
It's the old yes and no. And for every time you say no, you've got a part of yourself that you're kind of ignoring because it's difficult to deal with. You don't want to deal with it now. You don't have the answers. It's confrontation with someone that you really don't want to do. And you're just avoiding the whole mess. At that point, whatever it is, you've just consented to tie up that much energy and your emotions at cross purposes with yourself, hidden away, a hand behind your back, and then trying to go through life in pretending I meant to do it that way. And so I've had to force myself to confront what I didn't want to think about, because that's my voice. And just because I don't like the way I sound, it's like someone's breaking into the house next door. Do you do anything about it? This is you. This is your house next door. You better do something about it. And so it's difficult to expose yourself. And on the other hand, when I go and say, yes, you will take me seriously, I better be consistent in what I'm asking for, or I won't be taken seriously. And that means all my asks should be lined up together and consistent. And that has the extra advantage of being efficient for me and for everyone around me. So I see being authentic and aware and inclusive as simply good efficiency. And that lets me bypass all the emotions about it. But it's still a lot of work. And even after coming out and all these other things, it just uncovers other things I haven't been dealing with or didn't see. I mean, your blind spots are called that because you don't know they're there. And if you haven't identified them, how are you going to fix them? How are you going to measure them? How are you going to cope with them? Because people are not going to walk up to you and say, all those things you've been searching for, your empty spot, here's your answer. That's not going to happen. So that would be my 2 cents in this.
Thank you. And so first part of all this is just becoming aware of our inner culture. So that may be a new concept for some of you, this notion of, who are the parts of myself. We talk about covering, maybe they're the parts of ourselves that we say, no, not now, or not here, or too loud, or too gay, or too whatever. So these parts that, that we judge or we think are holding us back or that we're afraid of. And so how do we become aware of that? And then how do we really be authentic at work? Not just say authentic sounding things, but truly show up fully present as ourselves. And to do that, we first have to do the inner work. So that's what we're going to just touch on here. And Pedro, you had a gorgeous example of kind of awareness of inner genius when we were planning this, and I'd love you to share it.
Yeah, of course. But first, what does it really mean being aware of a natural genius, right? I like to say by my experience and growing up as a queer kid who was assigned male at birth, right? I often found myself repressing my tastes and what I liked, of course, because, or even what I did and the things that I used to play or watch and things like that, because I thought that those things weren't for a boy. These things weren't right for a boy, right? And by the time I was a teenager, I consider myself not to be a creative person at all. Now that I am being aware of myself and I try to give myself permission to let things go, I started to explore more of my musical side, my artistical side, and other things. And one thing that comes to my mind often is the thought of all the could be's that I could be. And maybe I could have become a musician, a singer, a professional makeup artist. I don't even know. But one thing that I know now is that thinking too much about it doesn't give space for exploration of my future self. So I am who I am today because of all the things that happened to me in the past. And I still have much of my journey to explore the different Pedros that I can be in the future. So yeah, I think that summarizes what I think of a natural genius as being a queer person.
Thank you, Pedro. So with that, this is hopefully just kind of giving you some food for thought. And so what I would like to invite you to do now is to spend 5 minutes journaling. Before we do that, though, I'd like to just sit for a minute. So I don't know if you have a meditation practice, maybe you don't, maybe you've never done meditation before, but we're just going to sit for about a minute. So just ground your feet on the floor. You can rest your hands in your lap. Close your eyes or leave them open if that feels safer. And just notice your breath or the sensation of your hands making contact with your clothing. And just noticing if any thoughts or emotions are present. Any sensations in your body. Without trying to change anything. Simply noticing how you are right here, right now, in this moment. How is your being right now? And when you're ready, opening your eyes if they were closed. And let's talk about some journaling prompts. So for some of you, this might be your very first out and equal. You might be wondering, what am I doing in this workshop? This is kind of weird. So you may want to choose from the outer world list of topics to journal about. These are, kind of our more standard. But again, if this is your first out and equal, these may be revolutionary to even be thinking about this stuff. But who is a queer or weird leader who inspires you? You can write about that. What is your experience of navigating corporate life as a queer person been like? Do you cover or code switch at work? Why? Is it safe for me to fully express myself? Maybe exploring that. The encouragement is to maybe take a look at the inner world and spend some time on that. How inclusive is my inner culture? How is my self-talk? Pedro, you want to talk about frame these up a little bit too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, as a queer person from Brazil, I could talk about my outer world and share my experience of being a queer kid in Brazil, a country that kills a lot of people for being who they are, and about how safe it is for me to be. And also about the privilege that I have by working at HP and being part of an inclusive company that lets me be myself at work. But today I wanted to share a little bit about being non-binary, really. And I could talk for hours about it, but one thing that I could share is that I only came to realize my identity a few years ago. When I joined HP, I still identified myself as a gay man. And the work that Pride did at the time takes credit for me for discovering this identity and knowing what being non-binary means. And I'm grateful for that. But currently I am still in the process of self-discovery, and I don't think that this process is ever done for everyone. But one thing that I am currently exploring is very simple. It's like clothing. And I am in a place where I feel more free to choose different clothes than I was before. And picking things that I never thought in the past that might be for myself. And one thing that I realized is that you never know if you are going to be comfortable wearing any piece of cloth before you try it on. And that you can always take it off, return it, and try another one. And with that, I took a lot of time for me to understand this, not only regarding clothing, but every aspect of my life. And so I have one question for you. So how can you know what you could be if you never try yourself on?
Mm-hmm. Catherine, any comments before we send people off to begin their journaling?
Well, I wanted to transition in a boring, quiet way that excited no interest, no commentary. In fact, no one would even know it. A stealth transition, if you will. And I thought that was possible. And then we had that screwed up 2016 election and crazy political and social culture. And my very existence became problematic and existential as a struggle. So in that environment, I committed myself and said, you know what, I'm going to put my relationship, my job, my house, even my life potentially on the line and say, either this works or it doesn't, but I'm going to go forward as if it's going to succeed on all counts and act like this is going to work out for me. And, see what the workplace does. They talk a good line, but will they support? Outside, my neighbors, family, extended, all these other people. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. I have to do this. And I wasn't asking anyone anymore for permission. I had to be. And outside of those things, in my relationship, my cats, my home, and my job, I was prepared for everything else to go away. Fully, boldly, without apology. Yeah, I would change everything else about my life, but try to hold on to those four things if I could. And that was my path. I didn't choose it, but that's where I ended up. And I didn't have to retreat. So that was another good thing. I didn't expect that would happen at work or socially or professionally. So it's, oh, wow, this is amazing. I didn't expect this outcome. Usually if you don't pass perfectly when you transition, this was the old logic, you're at risk. Now we have some ability to be understood and not have to conform to expectations that really aren't appropriate for us. And we can simply be ourselves, whatever that is. And I still hope for boring. I like boring, but I'm, because I have to be full and bold, I am full and bold.
You couldn't be boring if you tried. So
Challenge accepted.
so what we're going to do now is we're actually just going to give you 3 minutes, because I'm looking at the clock, and I want to make sure we have more time in breakout rooms for you to talk to each other. So just take 3 minutes. For those of you who may have never journaled before, tends to work better with an actual pen and a piece of paper, or a pencil and a piece of paper. But if you're Gen Z, that probably isn't going to happen. So you can use your laptop if you want, and just start writing. And if you have nothing to write, then just write, I have nothing to write. I have nothing to write. I have nothing to write, until something pops into your mind. This is just for you. No one has to ever read this. And you don't have to share what you wrote when we get into the breakout room. So just 3 minutes of writing. And for folks who are watching the recording, I invite you to do the same. Just spend the next 3 minutes journaling on one of these topics. Just pick one. So you've got about 30 seconds left. You can always come back to this later, but just beginning to wrap up what you're writing. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into small groups, and you'll be in your small group for 15 minutes. And so you're going to be in groups of, most of you will be in a group of 4. Some of you may be in a group of 5. And I'll put in the chat when 3 minutes are up. So just keep an eye on that. You'll see it. And when your 3 minutes are up, just pause wherever you are, take a breath. And then the next person will go. The first person to share will be the person with the longest hair. Just makes it easy because it's a visual cue. And then, yeah, so Andre's laughing because yeah, he knows he's going first now. And then that person will choose the next person to go. And then whoever's speaking will just choose the next person to go. Yeah, Chris will definitely be the first in their group. Waist length, I remember that from your talk. And practice mindful listening. So listening simply means not talking. So when someone else is speaking, give them your full attention. There's no social pressure to comment or add anything or fix or comment or compliment or make them feel okay. Just listen. That's it. And then they'll do the same for you. Pause for a breath between each speaker. Share as vulnerably as feels safe for you today. Don't get caught up in long intros. Nobody really cares that you've worked at HP for 15 years. Just bring yourself, say your name, and then share about what you wrote, or share about the process of writing. Or you can simply say, I pass. If you don't feel like sharing today, that's perfectly all right. And share from curiosity and friendliness toward yourself. Toward yourself. This is basically, you're allowing others to witness your own journey. And by so doing, make it safe for them to take their journey as well. So with that, I'm going to open the breakout rooms. Have fun. We'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Stacy, have you seen an invitation pop up? Okay, great. You should have seen an invitation to go to a room. If you have not, Cindy, have you seen a pop-up window to go to a room? You're on mute. Just checking to see if anyone is alone in a room. Oh, I'm gonna move Stacy. Cindy, I can't hear you. I see your lips moving.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Hey, I've been messaging. Sorry, Zoom wouldn't let me unmute. I was alone in a room for 3 minutes, and so I left it.
Ah, all right. So let me
So,
move you.
thanks.
Let me move you.
Thank you.
What good is sitting alone in your room? Oh yeah,
Right?
no one joined your room. This happens sometimes. Oh, there's another room that only has 2 people in it, so I'll put you in that room.
Great, thanks.
And if you've been watching the recording, watching me manage breakout rooms, you're probably quite bored. I'm going to go ahead and hit pause on the recording, which I forgot to do. So Zoom recording. Welcome back. I see some smiling faces. So I'm gonna hope that means that the breakout rooms went well. Welcome back. Welcome back. Everyone else will be back in about 30 seconds. So we'll wait for those folks to get back. Two people in a breakout made for deeper conversations. All right, good. Yeah, Zoom distributed people far more unevenly than I expected. There were groups of 2, groups of 4, some groups of 1 that I had to fix. Because that's not a group. All right. So welcome back, everyone. I really wanted to have some time for Q&A and open dialogue, but we're at the top of the hour. So we won't get booted out of the room till 10 minutes after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the closing slide with just a call to action and some resources, and then I'm going to come back to this. So those of you who are able to stick around for another 10 minutes, please do, and we can maybe have some dialogues. I really want to hear how this went. The call to action is this question: what if we didn't go back to normal? Every year I've been coming to Out and Equal. This is probably my 12th year. And then on the last day, everyone's like, oh, I got to go back to normal. Or, when I'm leading a meditation retreat, people are like, oh, well, I guess we're going to go back to normal. What if you don't? What if you show up tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday and Monday exactly as you just showed up in your breakout room? Maybe not that exact level of deep sharing, that might scare people, but really just inhabiting your full being and letting your light shine. What might that look like? And how might that change the people around you? So just holding that question, we're trying on this new way of being. And so the encouragement is to just keep trying that on. Keep trying that on. How might your inner culture become more inclusive, friendly, and welcoming? So just kind of sitting with these things. Think about, what does being authentic look like? And how might you liberate your genius? So I have some requests. There is, if you go to where you went to get into this workshop, there's a link at the bottom that says survey. This workshop was, this is a prototype. You are the first people who have ever attended it. It's the first time it's ever been delivered. Your feedback is really, really important and valued. So please let us know. You know, what worked. We know time management didn't. You know, what didn't, what would you like to see more of? And so we'd really appreciate your feedback. So complete a survey on the Out and Equal platform. And also you can reach out to me through LinkedIn. You can also send me a message on Twitter. And I also, there are resources on the, if you go to the files section, where you went to log into this seminar, there are resources. So there is, if we have any organization development geeks in the house, I'll bet there's a few, given the nature of this conference. There is an amazing paper that was written by a friend of mine, Dr. Corey Voss, on awareness, humility, and will. And it just goes into just kind of through the OD lens, really looking at how our own personal transformation is what will actually help our organizations develop and grow and transform. And then just, this is my friend and mentor, John Renish. He's 84. He's been doing this kind of work since the 60s. And really, these articles were the genesis of this workshop. So, and then my friend Greg Stebbins has written some really good articles. And then The Parable of the Rope. I wanted to have time to read it, but I don't because we're out of time. But and a couple of poems. And this is a very long article. First we invented stories, then they changed us. It's amazing. I think it's a really good article because we get so caught up in story. And we need to be careful. And then I wanted to end with this quote by George Bernard Shaw. Reasonable people adapt themselves to the world. The unreasonable ones persist in trying to adapt the world to themselves. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable person. So I hope you go out there and be unreasonable and be yourselves, and that you enjoyed this workshop. And so with that, I'm going to go back a slide, and those who are able to stay for until we get unceremoniously booted out by Zoom in another 5 minutes. Comments, questions are welcome. You can raise your hand if you want to be formal, or you can just come off mute and start talking. Oh, you can't unmute yourselves. Ah, well, I can fix that. I am the host. I have godlike powers. If I can find my Zoom controls. Ah, where am I? I can't find my Zoom controls.
I am looking.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Ah, there we are. All right. Security. Allow participants to unmute themselves. So you should now be able to unmute yourself.
We can, in fact, unmute ourselves.
And that's the whole point.
I was just going to say, I would gonna tell everybody Craig told me I could be unreasonable now, so you're in trouble.
I'll consider that good trouble.
Right.
I think this has been great. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So this is Emmanuel, and I just want to say this has been great, and I love the sessions that you can just explore and talk, and the ones that lead you into breakout rooms so you can meet other participants. Just because of the virtual conference, it's a little bit difficult sometimes. So really do love this, and thank you. This is exactly what I needed today. So good job.
Thank you.
We can't be in person, so you have to make the connection genuinely, quickly, somehow. And you have to do that intentionally, mindfully.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo. I thought this was great. One thing I wanted to just comment quickly about the idea of returning to normal. I attended the summit in 2019, and the colleague I went with, I told her, and I told other people, it was the first time that I was ever in a place that I really felt completely at ease. I didn't feel like anyone was looking at me funny, judging me or anything. I said, it's literally, I'm in my 50s, and it's the first time in my life I ever felt completely comfortable being in a public place. So yeah, I can't say going back to normal is something I'm really jonesing for.
Craig, is there a way for us to get this slide deck?
Yes, I had to come back off mute because I'm in San Francisco, so the Blue Angels are flying over my house rehearsing. Fortunately, they waited until after we were almost done to start that. Yes, so this deck, and I'll put a PDF of it up as soon as we end. And so this will be there along with the other documents that I've talked about.
Amazing, thank you.
Hey, Craig and team, thank you again. This was just such a beautiful session. I'm curious, you said this was a prototype, but do you do this type of session elsewhere in this virtual environment? Because for having done it as a prototype, that came off incredibly well. And the only thing I would say, I think many of us would have wished for it to be a lot longer, so we could either spend more time in our breakout rooms or get more time with the three of you. So just wanted to share with that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And yeah, I would love to do this other places. And yeah, and I think it really should be a 90-minute or even a 2-hour session. 60 minutes is what we had. So, and I do teach classes online, so I haven't done this content before, but it's not my first time at the teaching online rodeo, but this was the prototype of this particular content.
A spin-off application, if you will.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
I do want to repeat that the 2019 in-person experience at the Out and Equal was one of those where I felt normal too. It felt like an entire town was just us, and there was no othering. We were the inhabitants. We defined what was normal simply by being there, and that was so different from then when you go to the airport on Friday morning to go home, and then suddenly you realize everyone's not like you. They're not colorful. They're not talking. They're not open. And I was sad, but I don't have to be that way. I can still be a little bit of rainbows and ponies as much as I want to. And I think that's the power we have to be that for everyone else and show them that it's possible.
Thanks, Catherine. Pedro, any final comments? I think, I don't know what happens after 10 minutes. If they just if we all just get kicked out suddenly, it wasn't me, it was the system, just so you know. But,
yeah, you know me there. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to echo everything everyone said. I think, I also think that was too little time that 90-minute session would be great. But yeah, I hope to meet everyone better sometime. And yeah, I really miss physical contact right now. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
So any other questions, comments? Feel free to reach out to me if you would, want to talk more about any of these topics. I love exploring these with people, and I'm jonesing to do this workshop again. So if you're interested in that, let me know. So, all right. Well, with that, I will say, oh, Clay, were you going to say something?
Oh, I love your living room, and and thank you so much, and have an amazing day, all you amazing people.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you around the conference.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.
I will stop the recording. If I can find the meeting controls to do that. Yes, I'm sure I want to stop the cloud recording. Bye, viewers at home.